be presenting a video about international risk.
But first of all, let me introduce our group members. Nufila, Moss Sabrina, and Jasper Stefari. So, let me start with an introduction.
What is an international risk? International risk includes all risks that are specific to the country and that will affect the local company's transactions with foreign investors. Foreign exchange and political risks are two of the most significant international risks for businesses. For example, when a company decides to engage in international financing, it acknowledges additional risk in exchange for additional opportunities. This can make it difficult for businesses to maintain consistent and reliable revenue. Next, moving on to features of international risk. Firstly, situational. Changes in a situation can result in new risks. Examples: political risk, legal risk, and credit risk. Secondly, time-based. The probability of the risk occurring at the beginning of the project is very high. For example, foreign exchange rate risk. Lastly, value-based. This affected by personal, corporate, or cultural values. A project can be done depending on the location, either locally and internationally, or the kind of workforce with intellectual skills. For instance, intellectual property risk. This slide is about the types and example of international risk, which are foreign exchange risk, credit risk, legal risk, political risk, and intellectual property risk. Firstly, foreign exchange risk, also known as FX risks, currency risks, and exchange rate risks. Currency value fluctuations are a risk, which are usually associated with an appreciation of the domestic currency relative to a foreign currency. Secondly, credit risk, the risk of failing to collect an account receivable. Businesses can protect themselves against this risk by accepting payment in full or letter credit. Thirdly, legal risk, failure to comply with statutory or regulatory obligations. Example: since the COVID-19 outbreak, people around the world are compulsory to use masks either outdoor or indoors. On the other hand, those who do not comply with the rules will be penalized. Next, political risk as a result of a country's political changes. Such changes in the country's monetary, fiscal, legal, and other policies are a result of the changes. Example: political risk, taxation, currency valuation, trade tariff/barriers, investment, wage levels, labor laws, environmental regulations, and development priorities are all decisions made by government leaders. Lastly, intellectual property risk, third parties were involved in the unauthorized use of strategic business or property information, which affected the value of services or products offered by a business. Example: copyrights pirates, brand impersonators, patent flouters.
Automotive industry. All those companies and activities involved in the manufacture of motor vehicles, including most components, such as engines and bodies, but excluding tires, batteries, and fuel. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a swift and severe impact on the globally integrated automotive industry. Symptoms included disruption in Chinese parts exports, large-scale manufacturing interruptions across Europe, and the closure of assembly plants in the United States. This is placing intense pressure on an industry already coping with a downshift in global demand, and likely leading to increased merger and acquisition activity. For example, Toyota and Harley-Davidson, because using just-in-time were the essential parts facing a disruption on the production. How to mitigate the risks. Risk minimization. Government unexpectedly changes its policies, which now negatively affect the foreign company. For example, trade barriers, which serve to limit or prevent international trade. Not only that, the everyday differences in the laws of foreign countries continue to influence the profits and overall success of a company doing business transactions abroad. Reducing financial risk. Hedging these hedges is to reduce the risk that price movements in the currency market will adversely affect the company's revenue and profits. For example, importers and exporters will often use currency forwards to hedge against exchange rate fluctuations. The institution will enter into a currency forward contract with a bank or other financial institution. Insurance. International finance activities can experience much greater uncertainty in their revenues. For example, acquire political risk insurance in order to protect their equity investments and loans from specific government actions, where political risk insurance helps these corporations continue to develop and grow their global businesses even in unpredictable or uncertain business conditions. Companies can purchase insurance that offers protection in the event of war, terrorism, labor disputes, supply shortages, and trade restrictions.